I know when we first started this unit, we started with discounts and taxes and all this stuff. So looking at question number one, it says find the selling price of each item. So there was a tie that originally was $13.99, and it has a discount of 39%. So I'm going to multiply 13.99, which is the original price. If you guys go to some other teachers, they will ask you to find out what's 39% and then deduct it from 13.99. That's what they will do. I taught you guys differently. From 39%, I don't want to find out what's 39%. I actually want to find out what's 61%. So I'm going to write 61% as 0.61. And the reason why I care for 61 and not 39 is because from a discount of 39%, like the store pays 39%, you paid 61%. Like I said, so that's why I'm interested on what's 61, because I'm interested in how much I'm paying. Right, from 100 minus 39 is 61%. Multiply that out, round it to two decimal places because we're dealing with money. So I'm going to go 13.99 times 0.61 times 0.61. I get $8.53. $8.53. If you do type it in a calculator, it gives you like a longer decimal, but remember, round it to two decimal places. I did look at the third one. If the third number was big enough, like 5 or more, I would have called this $8.54. But the third number was too small, so I ignored it. So I know we did discounts. There's questions 1 and 2. I know we also talked about taxes. Let me take a look at number 3. So from 99.95, I'm going to multiply 99.95. Once again, I'm not interested what's 5%. I don't care how much we have to add. I'm just going to do this at once. I'm not interested what's 5%. I'm interested how much is 105%. And I write that as 1.05 because I pay that 100% plus 5 more. So I multiply this 99.95 times 1.05. So with taxes, rounded to two decimal places, this will be $104 with 95 cents. $104 with 95 cents. The calculator gave me like 0.947, so that's why I ran it to 95 cents. Once again, I'm not interested what's 5%. I'm interested how much is 105%. Because that's everything together. And then I even changed the things when we were covering this. Let me take a look at number 5. I'll give you guys a price with a discount and with tax. So the way we did this, I went 169.50, which is the original price. I don't care what's 20%. I care what's 80%. So I'm going to multiply this by 0.80. And then with taxes, I don't care what 6% is. I care what's 106%. So I'm going to write this as 1.06. And I'm just going to multiply all that. Bless you. So 169.50 times 0.80 times 1.06. And I get $143 with 74 cents. $143, bless you, with 74 cents. Don't forget to round out to two decimal places. So the first two was only discount. Questions 3 and 4 was only taxes. But questions 5 and 6 are discount and tax in the same question. Any questions for the first 6? Then we move into number 7. 51 is what percent of 124? And then I know when I talked about this, I gave you guys a fraction. It was is over off. So this case, notice how the 51 is next to the is. So 51 is my is. See how 124 is next to my word off? So I'm going to go 51 over 124. Sometimes the is comes at the beginning or the first number that we see, but sometimes it might be the second number. Sometimes the of comes before the is. So this case, a fraction is a division. So I'm just going to go 51 divided by 124. According to the calculator, I get, when I look at this as a decimal, I get 0.41129 and continues. All I'm going to do, I'm going to move this 2 places to the right because that 2 is too small. I ignore it. So I'm going to call this 41.1%. If that 2 was big, I would have pushed the 1. I would have called it 41.2. Right? The 9, everything after it, I totally ignore it. I'm running it to only one decimal place. So 41.1%. But then let me take a look at question number 9. Question number 9, I'm giving you the percent. So when we're dealing with percentages, just like when we were doing with discount and taxes and all that stuff, I'm asking you what's 59% of 57.9. So all I'm going to do, hold on, let me wait, this thing froze for a minute. Like it went out, but just when we're dealing with percentage, we're going to multiply. So 59%, geez, this thing, it's frozen. Okay, there you go. So 59%, I'm going to write that as 0.59. Right, and just move the decimal twice to the left. And then 57.9, I'm just going to multiply those two numbers out. So 0.59 times 57.9, it gives me 34.2. Since I'm not dealing with money, I'm only going to run it to one decimal place. Money is the one that we run out to two decimal places. But this one I'm going to go to only 34.2. I did round to one decimal place. So any questions up until number 10? 10? All right, looking at number 10. I'm giving you guys a percent. We want to find out what's 180% of 115. So 180%, let me write this as 1.80. Remember, I just move it 2 places to the left. Not all the way to the front, just 2 places. So 1.80 times 115. So I'm going to go 1.80 times 115. This one I don't get a decimal. I get 207. And that's it. Until this time around, I did not get a decimal. Now let's take a look at number 11. Write each as a percent. Round to nearest tenth of a percent. Whenever we have a decimal, so in the previous question, when I had a percent, I moved the decimal 2 places to the left. If you notice, now I'm going backwards from a decimal to a percent, so move 2 spaces to the right. So I'm going to finish there. So I'm going to call this 99.8%. I move the decimal 2 places to the right. Let's say I had something, it's not in our worksheet, but let's say I had something like 0.4, and I need to convert this to a percent. I need to move that 2 places to the right, but I only have one number. In that case, I will add an extra 0 to be able to move it 2 places to the right. All right, I will call this 40%. Once again, it's not our case on the worksheet. I don't see that in the worksheet, but it could be on the test tomorrow. So since you need to move it 2 places to the right, if you need to add an extra 0 to do so, add the extra 0. Any questions up until 14? No? All right. Just remember, in those, move 2 places to the right. Now looking at 15, write it as a fraction. If I ignore the 0, the 0 to the left, and I ignore the decimal, that looks like a 7. So that's what I'm going to write on top. 7. At the bottom, I'm going to write a 1 and some zeros. The amount of zeros depends on how many numbers after the decimal place, after the decimal point. See, I see the decimal point and I only see one number, so I only put 10. If there were two numbers after the decimal point, I'll put 2 zeros. And then simplify your fraction if possible. 7 over 10 cannot simplify, so that's it. 7 over 10. But if we could simplify it, let's simplify it. Once again, the amount of zeros depends on how many numbers after the decimal point. All right, so that takes us up until number 18. Just on number 18, do me a favor, I forgot to do this on 18. I have the little line on top, ignore it. Look at that at 0.6. Like I said, I meant to take that out, but I forgot, so just ignore it. Call it 0.6. All right, so now, any questions up until 18? 16? All right, so 16, I'm going to write 875 on top. Because I ignore the 0 at the beginning, I ignore the decimal point, so 875. At the bottom, I'm going to write a 1 with 3 zeros. 3 zeros because there's 3 decimal numbers. Now, 875, I can divide that by 25. That's 25 times. So I get a calculator and I go 875 divided by 25, and that gives me 35. 1,000, I can do that by 25 as well. I can divide it by 25. On the calculator, I go 1,000 divided by 25, and it gives me 40. I cancel out the 25s, and I have 35 over 40. 35 over 40, I can still do better. 35, let me call that 5 times 7. 40, let me call that 5 times 8. I cancel out the 5s, so I have 7 over 8. So that's it. So simplify your fraction if possible. All right, so any questions up until 18? All right, so now let's take a look at number 19. Write it as a decimal. Write each as a decimal. So I'm just going to go 2 divided by 333. Because it's the top number divided by the bottom number. And according to the calculator, I get 0.006. And I'll stop there. It starts again 006, 006, 0. I'll just stop at 0.006. I'll stop at 3 decimal numbers. Once again, I just type in the calculator 2 divided by 333. That's all I do. But make sure you don't have a number in the front. If you do, let's take a look at it. For example, number 21. If there's a number in front, what I do, I multiply those two numbers, 4 times 100, and then what my result, I add it to the top number. So 4 times 100 plus 51, that gives me 451. And I'm going to have this over 100, because there was 100 at the bottom. Then I just type in the calculator, 451 divided by 100, and you should have 4.51. So, any questions up until 22? 20? All right, so looking at number 20, I'm just going to type it in, 91 divided by 125. According to the calculator, I get 0.728. And that's it. Let me move into number 23. Write each as a percent. What I'm going to do first, let me type this in. Let me get the decimal first. 4 divided by 5. 4 divided by 5. According to the calculator, I get 0.8. And I just typed in 4 divided by 5. I know from a decimal to convert it to a percent, we saw that a few questions back, had to move this 2 places to the right, add a 0 to do so, Move it 2 places to the right, so I'm going to call this 80%. I said first I got the decimal, and then move it 2 places to the right. Then let me skip to number 27. Write it as a decimal. We have percent. I know from a decimal to percent, I move to the right. So from a percent to a decimal, I move 2 places to the left. Right? The point is there. Add a 0 if you need to. Move 2 places to the left. So I'm going to have 0.02. The 0 before the point, it's optional. So I'm going to write it out. So 0.02. And then, my last section, write it as a fraction, starting from percent. What we're going to do, we're going to write 57.5 over. So write the number on top. At the bottom, with percent, it's always over 100. That's what percent means. It's always over 100. I don't want to deal with decimals, so I'm going to move the decimal 1 place to the right on the top and at the bottom. So I'm going to finish with 575 over 1,000. Right, I have 1,000 because I wanted to get rid of decimals. I moved it 1 place to the right. And then simplify your fraction. 575, I'm thinking of 25 times 23. 1,000, I'm thinking of 25 times 40. I cancel the 25s, and I'm left off with 23 over 40. Right, 23 over 40, I cannot do anything. So my answer is 23 over 40. Once again, percent is always over 100. Get rid of decimals if you have any, and then simplify your fraction. I know it covers a few things, but this unit took us 3 weeks. I'm testing you guys on 3 weeks, and we were looking almost like one thing per day. There were times where it took more than a day for each thing. So, any questions? No? Let me take a look real quick.